Okay, we're wrapping up this long series on this shower, this custom shower with the corner glass. I made it a series because I had a chance to really break down this project. The site was quiet, I was all alone. So if you haven't watched the rest of it, there are 7 other parts where I talk through every single aspect of building this shower. So there's no fancy music. I'm not trying to entertain. This is a professional trying to build something really cool. So if you haven't watched the rest, watch it. After this final step, which is grout and caulk, I am going to make a video that just shows the whole process, which most of the world likes to see a finished project right away, because that's how we are these days. Anyway, I am grouting and caulking. What's strange about this video is the timeline is not normal, meaning I grouted half of the shower and then we had our custom glass installed. And normally I would never do that. Glass is always the last thing to go in. But schedules were crazy. It was hard. I had a back injury somewhere in this project. So I had to let the glass guys come. Normally we would do it all at once, and that should be obvious. But what you're going to see is half of the shower grouted and caulked, and then you're going to see me start over with that process after the glass is in. I just want to say that out loud. Obviously, you grout and caulk your shower first, and I did it. It was okay for me this time because I'm the only person on this project. It's safe for me to have to do something like that. Anyway, we're grouting. That's basically mashing in the grout. Not much to explain, but you'll see it anyway. Key factors in the grouting process are make sure you hit it from every angle. If you only grout in one direction, then one side of the tile is not getting pushed in. You know, if you're always pushing this way, then that tile ridge here doesn't have it down there. This is me over explaining. Second thing to notice is I'm going to use 2 methods when I caulk. One is putting tape on both sides of a joint, caulking down the middle and running my finger down and then pulling off the tape. Sometimes that's a great scenario. The other is just caulking and then continuously tooling with my finger and a wet rag. This is not 100% silicone, so you can do that. You'll see all kinds of tips and tricks with caulk online. As usual, I'm just showing you what I'm up to on this project. But anyway, let's do it. This is the final video. I hope you watched all the others because, like I said, it's all of my thoughts as a pro who does a pretty good job as I built this thing. So let's watch it. Okay, it's a couple days later. I just took out all my spacers. I'll bring the camera up in a second, but now I'm just going to clean things up anywhere that there's some thin set because we were on an angle, so it was a little sloppier than normal, and just all the little finicky little moving around I had to do. So I got a little bit of cleaning up. I never leave a total mess. There's never like just thin set everywhere. It's just a matter of cleaning up edges, making sure nothing is like creeping out where the grout isn't going to cover it. So I'm just doing that. Razor and a wet rag. I'll bring the camera up there, but finally that section is done. After that, I'm getting ready. I'm going to immediately grout these 2 walls. So this wall and that wall. This is something I would never normally not grout the whole thing before glass, but we're on a very weird schedule. I had my back injury. The glass schedule has been changed multiple times already. So I'm just going to make it happen. I'm going to grout these 2 walls. This wall because the glass dies into it, obviously. So I want to do that, and I want to caulk at the curb, and I want to do everything that's difficult. Again, I would normally never want to come back and have to still do anything after the glass, but being, I'm by myself, I can be very careful. I would never, trust other people in the room because glass should be the final thing, but our schedule is unfortunately all over the place. Hopefully you can see very well. So I have not cleaned it yet, so it's there's some dirt, but hopefully you can see the lines. We have the 45 cut up here, and then this line right here, this is where we had to figure out where to cut this line in order for the faces to meet. I don't know if you can see it, but there's some slight variation. Like the widest part is right here, that grout line, and then they almost touch right here. And that's okay because in the end, there's going to be a caulk line the size of the widest part, and that will make it look like it is also that width down here basically a fake size just by running your finger at the same pressure. Hope that makes sense. Anyway, I'm just cleaning up, and when I mean clean up, I'm here, there's a little thin set sticking out. Just randomly go, and then I'm going to vacuum everything on the floor. I'll probably mask a couple rows of tape at the very base so that any grout that falls doesn't fall on my shower floor. Even though they're it's the same color grout, you don't want fresh grout to sit on top of the new grout. If it were to dry, it's drying in a very, very thin layer on top of the grout. So it's like, like concrete. If you were to patch concrete with a very thin layer, it doesn't automatically become like one solid thing of concrete. It's a thin little thing that could flake off. So although they're the same color, I don't want them touching or drying on each other. Anyway, let's clean up. Let's pretend I did all my scratching away. I'm gonna wipe down my walls, make sure everything looks good. Got some thin set here, just random checkup. And then we grab. Looks really good. Okay, I cleaned up. I mixed up my grout. This is Mapei's charcoal. It's their FA grout. What else can I say? I'm not going to show too much. Grouting is grouting after so many projects. Smeared it on from all directions so that every side of the joint gets filled. Let it dry to a total haze on the tile. Then do a first wipe, let it dry again. Start doing cleaning wipes. And then I'm going to wait a couple hours. I'm going to come back and do a couple of our caulk joints. Mainly this one. Sorry, my loud little scaffold bench here. That's it. Since I'm standing on this thing, I'll probably do each wall to a comfortable height. Then I'll move this bench out and do the two bottom sections. But let's do it. I'm still bending funny. I got this brace on my back still, so don't laugh. And I'm trying to be neat. I don't want a lot of dripping, so get a little on the wall and work it in. That way, this way. Now this joint is, if you go into that joint at this, this edge, it's actually very deep. So I'm not afraid to actually get grout all the way in there right now. And then before I caulk it, I'll scratch most of it out. So my caulk joint actually has backing to it. That is grout. But that final, at least 1/8 of an inch will be caulk so that there's no hairline cracks in it. But I'm totally going to get it into that joint right now. Although I don't like that glass is coming tomorrow, I am really excited about it. With this corner, we have this mitered corner in glass that I've never done before. I'm very happy that the owners said yes to it, or basically said yes to it and then said yes to paying for the more expensive version. The glass corner could have just been overlapped, but instead we're having it mitered to a perfect edge, so can't wait to see it. Anyway, let's keep doing this. Maybe I'll show something when I'm wiping, but I'll check in during caulk. Okay, it's early the next morning. I was running late. I did not have time to show you the wiping, so it's done. I just wiped it down with a wet rag, but I want to caulk that upper joint at our fake roof pitch, and to keep that neat, I'm going to use tape, and I'm going to tape both sides. So I'm going to tape, I'll bring the camera up, but I'm going to tape my line on this wall, and then on that wall, the width of my caulk joint, and even intentionally where the tiles are closer, there's a bigger gap in some spots, but I'm going to tape an even spacing. That way I can fill that line or that void with caulk, run my finger down it, and then pull the tape off and have a totally smooth line. No wiping down after, because it's not a 90 degrees, so you can't really get as good of a finger tooled joint as you could in a perfect corner, because it's more wide open, so it would be very sloppy to try to tool that with a finger or like a tool or silicone tool or anything, but let's bring you up there and I'll show you. All right, I don't know if you can see, like right here, our line's a little wider right here. You know, there's a couple tiles here where it's actually touching, and that's okay because it's within what we want to be our joint. And since this top row was cut, I'm gonna do my other row first because these are full tiles. So I'm gonna put my tape exactly where I want on that top row because I know the full tiles are flawlessly equal. And I'm doing that just a hair over the tile. So you can see just a hair of the tile remaining on my before my tape. I'm trying not to pull too hard on the tape. If you pull too hard on a thin tape, you can actually make a curve in it. So, and then below that, did I hit record? Yeah. Below that, I'm eyeballing an equal spacing. And this is my widest joint right here, so I'm going close to those tiles as well. And I'm trying not to look at the tile, I'm looking at the space between the tape to make sure it's uniform. So there we have it. I'm gonna do, the other two sides, and I'll come back when I'm running the caulk down it. Hopefully this makes sense. It's a little bright too. Exposure. Okay, ready to roll. I'm on my bench now. It's way better that I can walk across. I'm just going to caulk this. I'm using the sanded caulk from our Grout manufacturer. In this case, it's Mapei. So this is their Caulk S. Premium sanded siliconized acrylic caulk. I rarely use 100% silicone, and especially up high or in corners where water contact is temporary. The reality is you're showering for a few minutes and then the rest of the day you're not underwater, right? You're definitely damp, but using this gives you the perfect blend, not just color, but also the texture because it's sanded. So that's why it looks exactly like the Grout. And you can do joints like this that are right in your face and you don't see any difference. It looks like the Grout. Pure silicone will have more of a shine. While you could find the right color, it would never look like a sanded Grout. So unless I have to, so like more like in a commercial application with relentless water or a flexibility problem, then I'll use 100% silicone. But this will work as it needs to. So anyway, let's fill this. I'm gonna have my rag ready. Yes, I hit record. I'm gonna fill it, tool it with my finger, pushing hard enough so that the two sides of the joint are flat. If you don't push hard enough and pull off the tape, you'll have like a bump out. So you have to push hard enough for it to be flat on the sides. Don't want to over explain because then it's too much, but let's fill it. Remember yesterday I did get Grout in here to fill, basically give it a backing, and then I scratched out an amount, enough of an amount, scratched out enough to fill back with caulk. It's not a race because this isn't going to dry that fast, but I don't want to mess around. So once I hit it with my finger, I want to be ready to pull it off. Also, this gun from Siligun, they did send it to me. I ended up liking it, especially in showers with tight areas because there's no rod out the back. So you can maneuver and your rod isn't hitting a wall over here. So I do like that if you're wondering what this silly looking gun is. Okay, so Let's see how this looks. It's going well, no problems. Nice and smooth. Got a good amount. I also don't want to push too hard that I'm removing any, or leaving a void. Definitely removing, but I don't want my finger getting in the joint and making like a valley. It seems pretty good. This seems on the loose side today. Okay, now I'm done with that rag. I'm going to carefully pull it off, making sure I pull away from the joint so the tape doesn't fall on it. Grr. Holy cow, it's beautiful. The size looks perfect. So, see you in a little bit. Glass guy comes in 2.5 hours. I'm looking at my wrist as if I have a watch on. I'm just thinking. Glass guy comes, so I probably won't be able to video until after the glass is in. Interesting day. Try to keep it clean today, so unfortunately only have this thin tape. We'll put a bunch of rows down, and then maybe a piece of cardboard or something. Said it before, I don't want grout hitting the floor, even though it's the same color. It doesn't play nice on something that already exists. And by the way, same thing up here. I'll tape off our terrazzo because I don't want to abuse the terrazzo. It hasn't been sealed yet, so I'm very gentle with that as well. I don't need any staining. Okay. So this is a small wall, but it's going to take a lot of time because I have so much cleaning up to do. This niche, the niche is going to be a total mess, and then I'll have to clean out all the corners where I didn't want the grout, but it's impossible without just mashing it in everywhere. So I think why I like talking about the frustrating parts is because if you tackle something on your own, right? You're a do-it-yourselfer, it's your first time, or you're good at something else and you're trying tile for like the first time, you're gonna hit these parts where it's like so frustrating and you're like, oh my god, it can't be this hard, I must be doing it wrong. But sometimes it is just that hard, or I don't mean hard all the time, maybe I mean tedious or messy or something else, but you can't ever think that doing something like this is just easy. It's not. It's very, very hard for something to come out amazing. So I'm just saying that out loud because you're gonna be like, what have I gotten myself into? And the answer is just something that takes a lot of care and time. So don't think you're gonna build a shower like this in a weekend or 2 weekends. Like, if you're tackling this on your own, be ready for like a season of working with no experience. Trying so hard not to drip. I also took my mic off. In this corner where our shower wall meets the tile, I am grouting into it, and as it starts to set up, I'm going to grab my knife or a small screwdriver and dig it out so I can caulk it later on or tomorrow morning. But it's you can't not get it into a joint, so it's better to just get it in and clean it out before it totally dries. And then while I'm talking, let's talk about the ceiling too. So the ceiling was all done in the room. Unfortunately, taping off the ceiling to not get it dirty with the grout is more dangerous than just repainting it later. Because when that tape gets damp, it is more likely to stick worse than it should. Even like your quick release tapes or your easy release tapes, and you're gonna flip out if you peel off tape and you peel off wall too, or paint, because then you have to refinish it. You have to put compound or spackle instead of just having to repaint. So I'd rather repaint the dirty than try to tape it off, because the tape, I've had tape heartbreaks before, and it's way worse than just painting over something that's dirty. By the way, I did tape this corner just to not get fresh grout all over my grout that I did a few days ago. So any grout that has fallen on my little tape is still pretty wet. I can pick it up and use it again. Any grout on my drop cloth, I don't touch. I might have said this in a previous video, but a lot of times if I have a scrap of like a shower liner or the orange membrane, the Curdy membrane from Schluter, something that's brand new, I'll put it down on the whole floor because that's waterproof. So if grout falls, none of the moisture gets sucked out of that grout, and it's still fresh grout for, for quite a long time, 20 minutes. So I can always pick up off that super clean, brand new mat and put it right back on the wall. Just a little tip. So I'm doing my first wipe now. You can't really see much, so I'm not going to film much. Circular motions. The niche is an absolute mess. I was able to use the float on the two big shelves, but the tiny shelf down here, I just had to glob it in my hands, try to tool the back of that shelf in every direction, so it's a mess. Now it's just a matter of wiping, digging out the grout anywhere it shouldn't be. That's about it. I'm not going to show much of this. Every now and then you see a little pinhole, especially with this many small tiles. You see a pinhole where there might have been an air pocket or something. Just grab some out of the corner since it's still so messy and rub it in. So anyway, that's about it. Light circular motions, light. I don't want to dig out any grout. I'm just trying to get it all smooth and uniform. And then once it hazes again, I'll be starting to make it nicer, or doing my cleaning passes. How's that angle? How's that focus, I should say? I changed my water once, I've wiped twice. The niche is still messy. Again, I've got to wait for the haze to dry between each. But all of the mess that has fallen on the floor is dry enough to be crumbly and no longer like wet. It's still damp, but I can vacuum it. So I've done all my scratching out of the corners. I've let all that fall to the floor. I scratched out the bottom where it hits the floor. I've scratched out that joint so that I can fill it with our matching caulk tomorrow. Sometimes I focus, I have to focus between saying grout and caulk because I'm intermingling the two words so often. If I say it wrong, I'll be like preaching the exact opposite of what should be done. So if you see me pause ever, I'm like caulk, grout. Anyway, I'm pulling back. Look how clean our floor is. That's why it's totally worth or necessary masking off, because it really is a mess, especially with a lot of grout, small tiles. There are certainly instances where the job is way cleaner. If you have large tiles, sometimes you're not even getting the center of the tile dirty because you're only doing grout lines. But anyway, this one happened to be messy, and on top of that, the dark color is always more messy, unless that's a mental thing, I don't know. But I'm gonna peel back. I already vacuumed once, that's why there's no big globs, but as I peel back this tape, it's gonna crumble even more. So I'm basically just trying to clean up while I do my final wipes, just to keep moving. But again, I'm doing this when it's dry enough to be crumbly and not stick. So it's still, you know, the pieces are dark. They have moisture in them, but it's not enough to stick to the floor and make a mess. So I can vacuum it. And as usual, I'm over explaining just so you know the thoughts and the process. So, you know, any full-time tile people out there know that this is just the regular job. You know, I'm not making a big deal out of it. I'm just trying to thoroughly explain it. So I'm gonna vacuum now. You're in my way, I can't reach the vacuum. And I'm just gonna keep wiping down and checking to see if I have to scratch out anything of my knife. You know, if I have to scratch out, I already did this corner, but you know, the corner in here, and I don't dig in, I use like my knife as like a side thing. You know, I drag it down the side, I'm not slicing. So it's just that, just enough to clean it out where I know that enough caulk can go back into it to allow that flexibility. All right, that's it. Probably check in tomorrow when this is all cleaned up and maybe mid caulked or finally caulked. I'm sure I'll do some caulking videos. So straight-ish. Let's see, I did. I'm up to right there. Let's go. You're literally almost touching me. So let's do like a 1 foot section. I got my rodless gun, which is great. This will be especially great over when I'm working on the niche because a rod would be hitting the corner next to me. So tight spaces. Now, like I said, I'm trying to go as small as I can. In where I scraped out more, I have to fill it enough to not create a valley. So, but if I have too much, I have a huge mess when I'm tooling it. See there, I missed some, so I should have gone slower. Kind of stumbled. Okay, so another nice thing, this sits on the shelf of my niche right now, so that's nice. All right, so let's wet my finger. So this is going to be the ugly wipe. See right there, I kind of don't have enough. Hopefully you can see that. So I'm going to go over that again with what's on my finger without making a mess. And maybe you can see if we zoom in when I edit the little spillage on each side. Maybe you can't, you'll just have to trust me. But you know, you see the bleed from me smudging it. And now tightly wrapped around my finger, like I'm pulling on it. I do that. So that dampens it, kind of makes it squeegee-able. Use my finger again. Use the rag again a little lighter to make sure I'm only hitting the sides now and not going into the joint. And you see that bleed gets a little smaller. And now I'm pushing kind of hard to truly squeegee it clean. But I'm also not trying to dig in. It's hard to explain. You know, it's one of those things that you'll understand when you're trying it. And I think my point, as usual, is it's not just going to be easy. You don't just get to go, you know, do a bead of caulk and leave. Just over explaining as usual. And I have to say out loud, everyone has their tips and tricks about caulking. From using tools to, you know, using Windex to taping to a million things. So, but when using this type of caulk, that I can dampen, this is what I like to do. Even though it's tedious and takes a long time, it looks most crafted in the end. So there we go. Give it one flick upward to connect what I did a few minutes ago without totally retouching that because it starts to tack up right away. And we move on. I just want to point out one thing, or not one thing, a million things. This joint right here, I will caulk, and I don't know if I necessarily believe that I have to. It is a change of plane, but it's also a change of plane that's on the same 2x4. So sometimes I think when I overthink things, sometimes I think if anything, that's the joint that you shouldn't have to. Like in an inside corner, you have two separate walls. On this piece right here, you're on that 2x4. Just a random thought I have. But anyway, I do caulk it. Remember, this is only sticking out 1/8 of an inch at the max, maybe like a 32nd less than that. So yeah, anyway, point is I'm caulking it. Now I'm not, can you even see these joints? I'm not caulking these joints. That's where I want to do the black because obviously because we have a black here, and if I use this dark gray on that black, it'll end up outlining the shelves and the joint rather than having it blend in. And once that blends in more, it's almost going to look, at least from a distance, that this is like a solid unit almost preformed. So those are all of my over thoughts on that. This joint is really tiny and shallow, so I'm just getting enough on there. Anything that does flow into that black joint, I'll just scratch it out. But I don't know if I showed you. I can sit there. How nice is that? And just clean this up. The messy wipe. And then a little cleaner. Next, I have to go into the, what's it called? Niche. But there's no way I can get the camera in here. I'm up against the wall. We only have 34 inches in here, so too bad. I'll show that off later when I'm done. But otherwise, there's not much to talk about in this shower. It's a tedious day. So I just tackle one by one, go through the list. I'm going to do the floor joints last, so that way I can do them and then get out of here and not walk in here and accidentally, have something fall in it. I wouldn't want to scratch away something and have it fall on the joint on the floor while it's drying. So I think that's all my thoughts. Can't wait to pull back the camera. You want a close up? Okay, we're mostly sealed up now. It looks fantastic. I did find a black sanded caulk. It's a different brand. They're both called charcoal. You can never go by a color. This one is basically a black. So I'm going to hit these joints just around the shelf. So the back joint where the tile meets, you can barely see the tile, where the tile meets the black is the tile color. It's this charcoal, they're both charcoal, this dark gray. And just straighten you out a little. I'm only going to use this black on the shelf itself and the outside joint. And I'm going to fill this with caulk, even though it's a wide open joint, just because there's no need to go buy a bag of grout just for this little 1 inch. I'll just totally fill it with this caulk. And that's about it. So we have just the shelf joints and these joints between the shelf heights. And I'm just being really careful to not get it on the back, the dark gray. I'm also going to be doing underneath as well. But let's just try to get this one So that front joint I'm just basically stuffing. And then it's just more wiping. This should dry pretty nice. Blend right in. This one's a little messier. I'm filling that joint. So when you fill a big joint, it is possible that the caulk shrinks while it's drying, and you might have to hit it again. Just packing that in there, almost like packing a bearing with grease. If you're a car person. I'm barely a car person, so. Same deal, the wipe until it's perfect. So I'm going to keep doing these joints, and maybe tomorrow I'll check in so you can see it totally dry. And see how good these colors blend. But how good this niche is. Can't even see it. Hold on, I'm not giving up here. Show off this niche. So good. Okay, bye. So finally, this shower is done. If you watched all the other videos, hopefully you got a lot out of it. I've said it before, what I think is missing in this world where we get to share all of our info online is the details of our thoughts. You know, we've gotten to a point where everything is just supposed to be entertainment, like, you know, epic music and these close-ups, but when you try to do it yourself, you're going to say, well, wait a minute, how do I do this corner? Am I doing this right? So anyway, I hope that's what you got out of this whole series. If not, keep watching. We're building a lot of fun stuff. So see you on the next one.